All right, let's bring him in. Dusty Slay. You can check him out right now on Netflix, Season 3 of Stand-Ups. And, brother, we appreciate your time. You are hysterical. The funniest thing ever was when you were talking about Lonestar. Oh, my God, I laughed. I laughed so hard. So let's just jump into it. All right, the first thing I want to know, and I know the easy answer is you got to be funny, but what makes a good comedian?
Well, it's hard to say. Because there's so many good comedians out there that have so many different styles. But I really think truth and relatability is what makes you the best. Because if what you're saying is not true, then you're making up something. I don't know. If it's not believable, it's not funny to me. And if I can't relate to it, then it's not funny to me.
You've been on all manner of shows. If you name the show, all you guys watching and listening, it's Fallon, it's Kimmel, it's the whole thing. What is your most memorable performance and why?
Well, it's hard to say that being on Netflix is not the most memorable, but I think my first appearance on The Tonight Show was the most surreal for me because it went the way that you want it to go. My Netflix went exactly the way I wanted it to go too, but by the time I had reached Netflix, I've done a lot of things. But when I was doing The Tonight Show, that was the first time I was just blown away. And honestly, I got the same feeling from doing the Grand Ole Opry the first time. It didn't make sense to me that a little country kid that doesn't even play music was getting to perform on the Grand Ole Opry stage.
I was going to ask you about that. That is obviously hallowed ground. It's as sacred as it gets in Nashville, Tennessee. Hell, I got to be honest with you. Before we booked you to come on, I didn't know anybody ever did comedy at the Grand Ole Opry. So how's that go when you're standing in a circle, man?
Well, I was so intimidated the first time, but I think I've done it about 15 times now.
Yep.
And now I really feel at home. The people that work at the Opry are so nice and so great. Everybody in the band, and it's all like, it feels like just a good fun hang. But the first time I was just like, man, I got to prove that I belong here. I got to prove that this wasn't a mistake, that they're like, we could have put any musician here tonight, but we chose to let you do jokes. So don't make us regret it.
Yeah, how does it work? Do they do like a comedy night in the theater, or are you part of the musical lineup for the evening?
Yeah, I'm just part of the musical lineup. And but I think the great thing is that, oftentimes the music can get so serious that it's a nice break to have comedy. I think the worst performance I've had there was when I followed Neil McCoy. And I think it's because Neil McCoy got so wild. He went out into the audience. He had basically his own comedy show anyway. And then I come out to do comedy, and I'm like, well, I can't sing. It's not fair when people can sing and be funny.
Yeah, when Neil's wearing them britches that tight and he goes, all she's got to do is just to give me that wank. You got no shot, bro.
He's out in the crowd. Yeah. Normally I come out and I get to break up the seriousness with a bit of levity. And dang, Neil McCoy had the audience going. They were like, bring Neil McCoy back out. I didn't bomb, but it was my worst set there.
What was your worst bomb?
Tough act.
Share that with us.
Well, I think probably I was in Columbus, Georgia at a place called The Loft, and I was trying some new jokes. This was probably about 2015. I was trying some new jokes. They were a bit dirtier, but they had been working well. But my dad and his wife and his cousin and his wife and some people from their church all came. And if you're being a little dirty and it's working, everybody can just look past it. They can be, you know what, it was dirty, but you were getting laughs. It's hard to argue. But when you're dirty and you're bombing, it just looks awful. And it just looked so bad. There's a host that she would always go out and go, I'd like to give a toast. Do you want to hear a dirty toast or a clean toast? And every time I had been, the audience asked for a dirty toast. But this night, they went clean.
Oh, no.
And even she was taken back. She didn't know what to do. I don't even think she had a clean toast.
That was, your dad's church just led the momentum there for the clean toast.
Yeah, and then I got, I call them my lotion jokes, but you can imagine what they were about. And
moisturizing.
It was just like, that was the worst, because it was the worst for me, because bombing in front of strangers is not that big of a deal. But bombing in front of a man that you're going to talk to for years to come is hard.
What's that like? Does he still bring it up?
Well, it was so bad that when I got to do the Opry for the first time, I invited my dad, because that was my redemption. I was like, all right, listen, I know you saw me bomb years ago, but now come see me perform at the Grand Ole Opry. And he brought his best friend, and his best friend, he said it was on his bucket list to go to the Opry. So I'm killing many birds with one stone. And, it's funny, the Opry has metal detectors. I had a pocket knife that I had to go put back in the car. My dad had a pocket knife that he had to go put back in the car. And my dad's friend had 2 knives that he had to go put. He had a boot knife and a pocket knife.
Dusty, let me tell you something, brother. I fly a lot for my job, and the Charlotte Douglas International Airport must have a box somewhere full of weaponry for the woods, because I've given them about 10 pocket knives myself.
That's funny. I got a joke I've been doing about that, because I've lost 3 at the airport. And I say, if I'm a threat with a pocket knife that big, I'm somewhat of a threat without it. You know what I mean?
So I read that you almost gave it up during COVID. Wow.
Well, I think, I was talking to Dave Paulson at the Tennessean, and I've become friends with him over the years, and I think I get a little loose talking to him. And I don't know that I so much almost gave it up, or that I just wasn't sure that we would ever do it again. I wasn't sure that the world was going to go back to even semi-normal. I don't know that we're back to normal yet, but at least we're at semi-normal. But when I got shut down for a second time, there was a part of me that wondered if we would ever get back to normal and if this would ever continue the same way. And I did begin to think of, what would I do otherwise? What would be my other alternatives? And I did think seriously about, how can I even tell? I even say this now, it's hard to write jokes when you feel like the world's about to end, And I think that's where I was at. I mean, I'm in a much happier place now because I do comedy every weekend and I have a new baby. But at the time, it was just it just felt dark. And I'm like, how do I tell jokes in this time?
Yep. Yeah, everybody went through it. I mean, and in their own way. Everybody had to manage that mental health part of the COVID-19 pandemic in their own way. I mean, I make my living on sports, right? So we thought sports were impenetrable. We thought sports were everything proof. And then all of a sudden, you work for ESPN and your entire life is reporting and broadcasting sports. And then, oh, damn, there's not any sports. And so a lot of people had to deal with it. It is interesting, man, how it changed our perspectives on the blessings of getting to do what we do. So how did your perspective on being a comedian and sharing that humor change?
Well, I think for me, when I got to go back out, at least the first time, I got to go back out, and it gave me an opportunity to kind of reset, because I said, we've all been shut down. How do I get shut down and then just come back out and tell all the same jokes I was telling before this happened? So I thought, the audience is just so happy to be out of the house. This is a good chance for me to just tell some new jokes, talk about some new things. And then I got shut down later in 2020, and at that point, I was just so happy to be back out there and be on stage. that I was just blown away. And I just was so happy that, I don't know, it's just hard to describe. I was thinking about, I don't even know if I want to do comedy anymore. And then immediately after that show, I felt such a rush that I hadn't felt in a long time, that I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to do it again.
You were reminded of your purpose. That's what it was, man. You were reminded of your purpose because you're injecting joy and fulfillment into people who desperately needed it. I don't know. I'm not a comedian. I don't know a whole lot of comedians, but I would imagine that the energy rush for you guys is, I have spent, this is my life's work, is trying to inject joy into your night. And when you receive that back, that energy exchange is validation. And so I would imagine that has to be part of this.
Yeah, I think so. And when you do comedy night after night, and I'm sure it's the same for musicians, I'm sure it's the same for athletes. It's like night after night after night, the rush can go away sometimes. But when you have to take time off and then get to come back, it's unbelievable.
So not just COVID, but I mean, with social media, the Netflix model that you mentioned, how have you adapted to what this art form is becoming? Obviously, you still have the live element, but it seems like you have to be funny when you're just in your normal day, you know, walking around doing things on Instagram, which you're good at. But that seems like maybe when you got into it, I would think you couldn't have imagined that would have been part of the gig.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun in a lot of ways. I like social media in a lot of ways. I like telling jokes online. I like posting videos of my stand-up. But there seems to be this real push for people to have an insight into your life and for me to film doing my everyday things. But I'm like, I don't want to do that. I just want to do me doing everyday things is me, like, you know, turning it off for a minute and being a normal person. But it's like, I want to go work out in the yard and plant vegetables and fruit. And I'm like, I'm always tempted to be like, I should make a video of this. But then I'm like, am I really taking a break? Wow. It's like, I don't want to video every aspect of my life. You know, I just had a baby and I haven't posted one picture of her in 9 months because I'm like, I'm not trying to use my kid to get likes.
Yeah.
If people do that, I'm not judging them, but I'm not trying to do it.
No,
you know?
I totally get that. Now, you brought up Lonestar, and I was thinking before this convo about this era in country music where guys were just singing about being a dad, and it wasn't really part of what country music was all about before that. And when I look back on the big picture of what was going on in country in the 90s and 2000s, that just seems like such a weird path for country guys to start singing about that.
Oh, man. Well, that Lonestar song cracks me up because people love that song. And I like Lonestar. I do like them. I really like them. But that song, I'm Already There, that cracks me
Mr.
up
Mom.
because it's like you're not there and you're telling your little kid, I'm already there. And your little kids are like, well, where you at? Let's get together. You know what I mean?
You talking about that kills me, man. You were like, I'm the shadow on the ground. No, you're not.
Yeah. It's like
The shadow on the ground
like,
can't play catch with me, Dad.
Like, when you say, I'm with you in spirit, it's like, okay, so you're not with me at all then.
What about 5 o'clock somewhere? You think that one's funny too?
Oh, man, 5 o'clock somewhere. I got a 7-minute breakdown of 5 o'clock somewhere. And, but, you know, I always, you know, it's funny. It's like, if you say 5, it's like the song that justifies drinking any time of the day. You know, you say it's 5 o'clock and it's okay. It only works for drinking though. You know, you can't show up late for work and be like, hey, it's 9 o'clock somewhere, you know? Be nice if that did work though. You know, if your boss is like, well, I can't argue with that logic. Hell, get in here.
9 o'clock on the West Coast, boss.
Yeah, exactly. And then people always love to throw at me. They're like, Newfoundland has a half hour, you know, because I say, you know, he says it's only 12:30. That's 12:30, just to be clear. He said, it's only 12:30, but I don't care. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? But that's not true, you know. It may be 5:30 somewhere, but They'll say, well, if it's 12:30 in California, then it's 5 o'clock in Newfoundland. But I'm like, I don't think they're in California, and I don't, so I don't think that's how it works. People don't know how to get a joke. People get too analytical about a joke. Now, I love truth and comedy, but it can't just be any time you want it to be at any time,
People get too analytical about everything, Dusty. Damn thing.
Oh, man, it's too much. Who are some guys, I'm thinking specifically Southern comedians, Midwestern guys. I know obviously you're a big fan of Jeff Foxworthy, but I think every time I hear someone that is from where, I'm from, the Southeast, I'm just a little bit more inclined to hear what they have to say. How have some of those guys from your region kind of shaped your path in this career?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of really great Southern comics that people don't even really talk about anymore. Jerry Clower is one that I used to listen to a lot when I was younger, and it's like I feel like I kind of indirectly took the Jerry Clower path. There's a joke where Jerry Clower says that he recorded an album, and a record exec from New York heard the album and said, hey, gave him a call and said, next time you're in the vicinity of New York City, why don't you stop by the office? And Jerry Clower's like, well, I ain't never going to be in the vicinity of New York City.
The vicinity.
So if you want me, you got to send for me, right? And it's like, that's not exactly my path, but I never really wanted to move to New York or LA, and I like living in Nashville, and I'm like, I just want to be a comedian. I'm not trying to be a movie star, so I'm going to stay here, and I'm just going to do comedy. And I think that, there's also another comic named James Gregory that I always really liked, and he stayed in Atlanta his whole career. And I just think there is something about, where you grow up and who you are, that's part of who you are. And if you move to a new place, now you're changing, and it's like, I don't want to change. I want to grow. I want to, get better, but I like being me. I like Nashville where 15 minutes I can be out in the country, I was looking for land in 2020, and there's hollow. You be 20 minutes outside of Nashville, you're deep down in some one-lane mountain road where your phone signal doesn't work, and you don't know if you'll make it out of there or not,
So how do you carry Alabama with you? You from Opelika, right?
I am from Opelika. I just feel like I like Alabama. Alabama's the butt of every joke, and they take all the criticism all the time. And I like Alabama. I think it's great. I had a great time living there. I mean, I see you got an Alabama helmet back there. I cheer for Alabama and Auburn, and people don't like that I do it. But I'm like, you know what? I grew up in Opelika. I went to many Auburn games, but my dad's a diehard Alabama fan, and I can cheer for them both. If they're playing each other and one has a chance to go to the national championship, that's who I'm pulling for. I think there's a lot of Alabama, a lot of Auburn fans. I think I don't know that there's so much Auburn fans as they are I hate Alabama fans. You know what I mean? I mean, I always say where I come from, you're either an Alabama fan or you went to college, right? But I didn't go to college, so roll tide. You know what I mean? And because that's what my mom always says that. She goes, oh, them Alabama fans, they didn't even go to that school. But my mom, being an Auburn fan, also didn't go to Auburn, Right. So we're all out here just talking trash. You
got to put some more of that in your routine, man. Anytime you're talking about SEC football fans, you got to – I mean, there are reams of jokes that you could share.
Yeah. Every school has something you can get them
all
for.
Of them.
Every single one.
This past Saturday, I did the Fox Theater in Atlanta, Georgia with Jeff Foxworthy, and there were 4,800 people in that theater. And I said, my dad lives in Alabama, and half the audience started booing me just because he lives there.
Yeah.
And then I did the first part of that joke where I said, you're either an Alabama fan or you went to college, and that place went nuts. I mean, it lit up like you've never seen. And then I did the second part of the joke, and that's why the second part is the best. I go, hey, but I didn't go to college, so roll tide.
It's so funny.
And I don't know, it just pulls the rug out from under them, and I love it.
Dusty, I'm in Athens, and we're still riding high over the Natty, of course, but there's still the inferiority complex, so that doesn't surprise me at all that joke was a mixed reception from the dogs in the building. I love Foxworthy because he went to Tech for a little bit, and he's a Georgia fan. So y'all have a little bit of that mixed house divided internally thing going on too.
Yeah, I think Foxworthy roasted me a little bit after he went out there. I couldn't hear because side stage in a theater you can't really hear, but he talked about me being from Alabama, and then I heard him doing the go dogs and barking, and oh man. But I love Athens too. I love Athens. I love Charlotte. Those are fun places. I've done comedy several times there. I love it.
Tell us a great Foxworthy story.
What's that?
Tell us a great Foxworthy story. I know you got.
Well, I don't know him that well. I've opened for him a couple of times, and I've done a podcast with him. But I can say he's just, to me, he's exactly what you want him to be. Just a normal guy with tons of stories. And, he says he told me the first time we talked that he's a big fan of my comedy, which as a kid that grew up in a trailer park, and I was living in a trailer park in middle school when You Might Be a Redneck came out, and no one had ever spoke to me that way before. And so for him to tell me he's a fan of my comedy blows my mind. I mean, I have total confidence in my comedy, but to hear a legend say that he loves my comedy, it kills me. And Foxworthy's couple of his kids were at this last show in Atlanta, and he said they were texting him during my set saying how much they liked me. And I don't know, I can't believe it's happening. Sometimes I can't believe the life that I have, and I'm so grateful,
Dusty, where do you get all your hats from? You are an avid hat guy.
Well, a guy on Instagram sent me a bunch of hats, and I wish I could remember his name, but it was a long time ago, and I get a bunch of messages. So it just went down to the bottom, and I don't remember his name. But he sent me this one, a Des Moines one. Now, the first one I ever had, you may know of this place, but the first one I wore was a West Point Pepperell hat. Yeah. West Point Pepperell was in West Point, Georgia, which is right across the border from Auburn. And my grandfather worked at a West Point Pepperell plant. My uncle drove a truck for them, and that's where I got the hat. And I started wearing it just as a joke, and it just felt so fun. I have a hard time being silly, and so when I wore the hat, it just brought out this silliness out of me. And then I can't take it off now. I don't know what happened. I'm like Jim Carrey with the mask,
We're going to have to send you a hat. We got a whole new line of hats, brother. Look, I
love it.
I'll send you that right there. How about that?
Oh, boom. That's a great hat.
All right. We are going to get you out of here on this. And something you just said made me think of this. I've always wanted to ask a professional comedian this. How do you develop the cadence? All of y'all have a cadence with which you speak when you're performing. And how does that happen? Like, is that mirror? And what's the writing process too for your jokes?
Well, my dad is a really funny guy and a good joke teller. And I think I just spent so much time around Southern men just listening to them tell jokes that I just picked it up, I think. And also I think there is a rhythm to it where I've listened to so much country music, so much good storytelling music, that you just you get into that rhythm. And I think some of it just has to be natural because I don't know where I get it from, but I have a video of the first time I ever did comedy, and my jokes weren't great, but I knew how to tell them. So the rhythm was even there then. And I think I think comedy is almost like poetry in a sense. And it's just like there's a way to tell it. And I think the writing process for me now is I have an idea, I take it on stage, I tell it until it makes people laugh. I keep telling it, and I keep trying to find that way. It's like I use my natural instincts of comedy to tell it in a way that I think is going to make them laugh. And once it does make them laugh, I just have a pretty good ability to remember how I told it. And then I just tell it like that. And it's like once you find that first laugh, I just keep milking it. I go, all right, I got a laugh here, but can I get another laugh off of it? And then if I get another laugh, I'm like, but can I get another laugh? And then before you know it, this little joke just grows into a bit because just instincts where you just keep going, all right, that worked. And so if you ever see me live, sometimes a joke will go big laugh. Smaller laugh, smaller laugh, smaller laugh. All right, you've taken it too far, right? But that's what I like to do. I like to milk it dry, you know?
Well, I saw you talking about your hair on one of the clips I was watching, and I was rolling, man. You taking the hat on and off and going, oh, he's Billy Ray Cyrus. Oh, whatever. Really funny. So I'm going to put you on the spot here, all right?
Okay.
I take constant grief about my hair. Constant. Like, if you go on social media, people are all the time talking about my hair. Like, what the hell is on top of that guy's head? Yeah. Why doesn't he get a hair? What's wrong with him? So I'm going to give you the floor, and you can offer us a bit about my hair, okay?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I don't know. I think you got a Johnny Bravo thing going on here. You know, I mean, that may be a bit of an old reference. I don't know. I think your hair looks good. I think you're a cool looking guy. You know what I mean? I'm not good at roasting people. I think
I'm not.
I think
either.
you got your own. I think you got your own vibe going. It looks good. I mean, you know, I've had many hairstyles. For a while, I had totally slicked back hair. It was short and slicked back. My friend, who now tells me it was my Rachel Maddow phase, and he didn't tell me that when I had it going. You know what I mean? And I'm all about, I've had many, if you could see me through the years, I've had some wild hairstyles. I've had a hairstyle similar to yours. Mine didn't look as good, but I bleached my hair, I spiked it up. I felt like I was awesome. You know, it was the Eminem days, and back when he was blonde, and I'm all about cool hair. You know what? And I feel like the cooler your hair is, the more people harass you about it because they can't handle it. They can't have cool hair, and they want to harass us about it. Bald guys love to attack us about our hair. You know what I mean?
Yes. I always laugh when it's some guy telling me that I need to get rid of my pubescent 13-year-old hair, and his profile picture, he looks like a cue ball I'm about to strike in the pool hall
he wants
after
it.
12 beers.
That's why, Marty. He wants it. He wants to take it.
Yeah, it's like people out here looking like Paul Feinbaum trying to tell us what to do with our hair. You know what I mean?
One of the greatest, no doubt the funniest moment of my on-air career was with Feinbaum, and it was a hair joke. So,
well, I spent many years listening. When I used to sell pesticides for a living, and I would drive from store to store, and I listened to so much Feinbaum. I mean, that show, it blew me away. And what I like about it is he's like in any sitcom, he's the great, straight man. It's like everybody's absurd, and he's like, okay, next call.
He is in the eye of a hurricane, just keeping it all around him at the same time.
He's a sorcerer.
Bringing people back.
Wizard.
It is mastery, no doubt about it.
Well,
yeah, but I think your hair's on point, and I think you should keep it going.
Well, look, man, we've kept you. We appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. Your humor, your talent is remarkable, and when you come to Charlotte, I'll see you then.
Well, I really appreciate it, and I hope people will go on to Netflix and watch me on season 3 of the stand-ups, because the more people watch it, the more chance I have to get a full hour, and I got a full hour ready to go. And I got 150 more we're having a good times to say, and I feel good.